my guest is here. Let me get to him. I am joined with the man himself, Dr. Wilmer Leon. Dr. Wilmer Leon is a radio host, political scientist, nationally syndicated columnist, host of Connecting the Dots on YouTube and on his syndicated broadcasts. I believe it's syndicated, or maybe I'm getting this wrong. Um, in fact, before I even say syndicated, I'm just going to not say that. I'm going to strike that out with whiteout. And I'm going to ask you, what is this show on Sirius?
Sirius is not syndicated because Sirius XM is its own network.
Fair enough. Thank you. That's what the whiteout came in handy.
So the show airs nationally on and internationally over the internet on Sirius XM channel 126, but it is not nationally syndicated. It is nationally broadcast.
Thank you. And what is the name of that show, just so the audience would know?
Inside the Issues with Wilmer Leon.
Inside the Issues with Wilmer Leon. How are you doing today? You doing okay this morning?
Man, look, I'm talking to you, so I'm doing great.
Well, I'm talking to you. I'm doing just as well, and I appreciate
you just need to get out more. That's your only problem.
That is true, but that doesn't have anything to do with this. There's nothing to do with this conversation. I'd be remiss if I didn't. Oh, there's so much to hit domestically. Mm-hmm. So I'll hit this. Do you remember when?
Wait a minute. Can I respond to what you very clearly and accurately laid out?
Please.
Because in listening to that, there are a couple of things that I want to reiterate.
Please.
Because people need to understand that you're absolutely right. When you talked about Trump's advisors, I'm going to quote one of the smartest men I ever knew, which was my father, who would say, son, when you ask the wrong person the wrong question, you will usually get the wrong answer. And he was a wise guy.
Wise man.
And not a made man, but a wise guy. And so part of that, I think, factors into the Trump info stream. Mm-hmm. I don't think that it's as much as they are withholding information from him. I think it's more that they don't know what the hell is going on. And that in many instances, they have become captives of their own misinformation and disinformation.
Interesting.
I was trying to find there's a quote that I had here yesterday. And unfortunately now it was CNN. Oh, here it is. So CNN reports Trump's intervention, talking about, I think, the relationship between what's going on with Europe and Ukraine, coming at a crucial moment in Moscow's war. Now, that point, Moscow's war is just flat out historically wrong. It's wrong. But that is the dominant narrative that those in the Trump administration are using to engage in their analysis and their policy, and that's what's being fed to the American people.
Yeah.
In the same paragraph, Trump's intervention comes at a crucial moment in Moscow's war, will be viewed with relief in the West as a signal that the White House has grown frustrated with Putin's refusal to accept a proposed 30-day ceasefire. Well, that's totally out of context.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't explain the Minsk Accord 1 lie. It doesn't explain the Minsk 2 lie. It doesn't reference the Istanbul lie.
Right.
So CNN now, this is the news presenting to the American people that Putin is just obstinate and, I guess, crazy. Instead of putting this in its proper historic context. And folks, this isn't my opinion.
Yeah.
This is history. So that's the first point. The second point is there's always been this faction in the American media and in the elite that will, and if you talk to the average American about what's going on in Ukraine, they'll tell you, oh, Putin's crazy.
Yeah.
Putin's crazy. He's a madman. He's just crazy. But now I think there's a very subtle nuance in Trump's language, which is he's gone crazy. Not that he's always been, but that he's gone, because that's the quote from Donald Trump. Putin has gone crazy. And I think that Trump's language is shifting because he now is trying to find his way out so that he can say, well, I tried to work with the man. When I was talking to the dude, he was okay. But all of a sudden, boom, he just lost his mind. And now I can't deal with him anymore. That's the other thing, too, folks need to remember, Trump sent offensive weapons into Ukraine during his first administration. The United States started this conflict. All Putin is doing is, what do they say on the corner?
Finishing
it. Hey, you started it. Now I'm gonna finish it. And so, what was the other point? Because I made a couple notes here. And in this whole conversation about, so I can't even read my own writing. Negotiation. The United States never negotiates. Mm-mm. The United States dictates and then expects you to capitulate. And then once you capitulate, now we have an agreement. Well, they've run up against a guy that ain't playing that game, because it's important for people, I believe, to understand that, and this is not, oh, Wilmer, you're a pro-Putin bot. No, I just read and I understand history. His demands have been consistent the entire time. He hasn't wavered on anything. Every now and then, CNN or MSNBC or one of these other entities will say, oh, he's thrown new things into the... No, he has not. Listen to Lavrov. And see, this is another difference between the United States, and I'll just use these two as examples, Russia and China. When you listen to Wang Yi, the foreign minister in China, and then you listen to Xi Jinping, they say exactly the same thing. When you listen to Sergei Lavrov and then you listen to Vladimir Putin, they say exactly the same thing. When you listen to Lil Marco and Stinky, as my boy Tom Porter loves to call him, when you listen to Lil Marco and then you listen to Stinky, you go, do they even talk to each other?
Yeah.
So, and the final point, Sergei Lavrov, and I've said this on here many times, Sergei Lavrov, lifelong diplomat. Wang Yi, lifelong diplomat. Went to like the Chinese diplomatic university. He has studied diplomacy his entire life. Lil Marco can't spell diplomacy. Not because he's stupid, which he's not the sharpest knife in the drawer, but because he doesn't understand it.
Right.
Now, folks, you can debate it if you want to, but history proves me to be correct. With that being said, what you got?
There's also a very basic premise that losers don't get to dictate terms.
Oh!
Like, the notion that you lose a war, and after losing a war, you come in as like, yeah, we're going to demand that we have our troops on your soil.
I'm glad you said that, because that takes me back to the to the turkey, what, 2 weeks ago or 10 days ago, when they were presenting this as Zelensky challenged Putin to come to Turkey and negotiate. Putin said,
yeah, like, why am I doing that? Why am I doing that? That was never postulated. That didn't happen the first time we were in Istanbul where you guys blew it off.
They are not here, newsflash, boys and girls, they are not negotiating a ceasefire.
No.
They are negotiating terms of surrender.
Right there.
And that's one of the main differences in the West's narrative and reality. As you've heard me say many times, fire up the USS Missouri, resurrect Admiral Hirohito, because y'all are about to surrender the same way Japan did in World War II. You're about to surrender.
I keep saying Medvedev.
So, okay, I'm done.
The velvet glove. Medvedev is the honesty. Medvedev is the honesty. And when he's like, look, either you come to terms now or next time it's going to be an unconditional capitulation.
Your opportunity to negotiate has passed.
Yeah.
A number of times. Let's not forget that Boris Johnson went to Zelensky on behalf of the West and said, you will not negotiate a peace agreement with this man.
Yep.
That they said that. Putin holds up the papers and said, been there, done that. Then you got Angela Merkel coming on and saying, well, yeah, we lied during Minsk.
Yep.
We lied. We were never going to do that. Once you hear that, and final point, if this whole mythology of Trump, of Putin wanting to take over Europe, if that were true, why did he wait 8 years?
Exactly.
Why did he try to negotiate for 8 years on the Donbass conflict before he finally intervened? Folks, if you can answer those questions,
yep,
then I might consider saying that the West narrative is correct.
By the way, with 150,000 people, like, that wasn't even enough to take over all of Ukraine,
right?
Let alone all of Europe. Like,
you can't take over Cleveland with 150,000 people.
The story makes no sense, and yet they run with it, and they tell their populations constantly.
That's why I say they're captives of their own narrative.
I just keep thinking he can't be that stupid. Like, the notion that you come out with a deal and you say, all right, in my 22-point plan, 22 points is just astonishing by itself, right? In my 22-point plan, we are going to take over the Zaporozhye nuclear power plant, and we're going to put American troops on the power plant, and European peacekeepers, effectively NATO, is going to go into Ukraine. And it's like, okay, so you haven't heard anything that we've said in this entire time. Fair enough. We'll solve it on the battlefield. It becomes that. And we'll see how long Ukrainian military can hold up, which is the reason why they're begging for a 30-day ceasefire. Hell, Zelensky was out here recently saying, well, we wouldn't mind a ceasefire going out till January. I bet you would. I bet you would. I bet you would. Good luck on getting it. Good luck on getting it.
I hope you get what you want for Christmas.
Yeah, I know, right? I know, right?
And I hope the Easter Bunny brings you some colored eggs.
Oh, I hope you get that pony. I'm highly doubtful that you are going to get that pony, but Lord knows I hope you get that pony.
I want a unicorn.
You want a unicorn?
I want a unicorn.
I think I want a kangaroo. I saw this video of this woman.
I like to hang my shirts on the horn of the unicorn.
Oh, I see. That's kind of unfortunate for the animal, but fair enough. There is a clip going out, and this what is the guy named? Ironically, head of Africa, black guy, Langley is his last name.
Oh, General Michael Langley?
Michael Langley. Yeah. How ironic is that last name?
AFRICOM.
AFRICOM, right. Yeah. I've seen this clip once before when he was in the front of the giving testimony. And when he was giving testimony once before, he pissed off a lot of people in Africa who love Ibrahim Traore, love him to bits. I even like the guy, right? And he says this, and this is what pisses everybody off. And then I'm going to play his follow-up to this.
Oh, this is
yeah,
funny.
when he doubles down. This is great.
Of a country is receiving gratuities on the side that in order to the benefit of the strongman leader and not to the populace of the country. Does that sort of corruption and bribery go on with regard to the Belt and Road?
Absolutely, Chairman. I see this, and I don't mind calling them out, but Captain Traore and Burkina Faso, as they know that both, whether it's their gold reserves, that is all those proceeds are just in exchange to protect the junta regime. There's a number of examples across.
He says Ibrahim Traore's the gold reserves that they have nationalized is just there to protect the quote unquote junta regime. And what's wild about it is later on in the testimony, the guy who's asking the question opines, I don't understand why Africa can't pull themselves out of the morass.
Right.
Like, I don't understand why they just can't do better after all of these years. I'll give you one example. The uranium that France was getting, I forget from which of the countries, they were paying something like, let's say, Niger, thank you. They were paying like 80 cents on it.
Right.
France was selling it for $200. And this guy's like, I don't understand why these colonialist former colonies can't just get themselves their act together. Right. Well, Ibrahim Traore nationalized the gold reserves and is using it for the benefit of the country. He is building roads. He is talking about building banks, like meaning that stuff is being used directly for the interests of the country. I've seen nothing to say that he is effectively using that for his own self-aggrandizement. And this hearing has a lot to do with notion of like USAID and stuff like that. Like, hey, we need to figure out how to use this better to bribe these countries to do US interests. And how bad China and Russia are for using their resources to benefit the country in some way. Like effectively he's saying, well, they're just using it in the way that we used it, but they're bad for doing it. It is a warped American point of view that is maddening when you watch it. Like if you're sitting on the moon watching it, but that if you're an American, you may accept. All right, so he gets, I believe he's in Kenya, and he's having a conversation where somebody brings up to him like, hey, you realize Africa was kind of pissed off at you when you said the nonsense about Ibrahim Traore. The man is a rock star here.
Part of it.
So we don't like what you said about him. Do you have anything to say about that? This is his response, and I want to get your take on his response.
Rule rather than for public welfare. These remarks sparked widespread, condemnation across the continent. What did you mean by that statement?
Let me speak to Burkina Faso's sovereignty. They maintain their sovereignty. They make their decisions how they use their resources. They make their decisions who their resources go to for military support. That's their sovereign right. But my cautionary tale was just from a military perspective. That was a Senate Armed Services Committee asking me a direct question. Burkina Faso, a lot of great things going on to progress them forward, okay? But then when you look at the military part of it, knowing that that's the epicenter of global terrorism, it was my time to illuminate that this is probably their weakest point and there needs to be sufficient resources going towards for the whole fight of terrorism in that country.
What's wild about this is that the U.S. Two things, real quick. One, he was talking about gold mines, not this notion of military stuff. He's talking about gold mines and these guys enlarging themselves based off the gold that they nationalize. And by definition of saying nationalize, it implies that it was going somewhere else prior to him nationalizing it. There's that. Two, the US has a history of using terrorists, either in Libya, either in Syria. Oh God, in Syria, the way that we use terrorists in order to undermine those governments. Right. Afghanistan. I mean, like, meaning this argument about terrorism, when we've been the backers of terrorists historically, is pretty rich. Give me a take on this. Yeah, give me a take on this. I'm not going to say anything else. What are your thoughts?
Michael Langley is a fool because for a lot of reasons, and I realize that this is his job.
Yes, it is.
But dude, you're a Marine. You need to understand a failed mission when they bring it to you. You're trying to defend the indefensible. That's why I say you're a fool. I don't know Michael Langley from Michael Jordan. They both got bald heads. And they're both black men. But again, my father, son, don't try to clown me. You're trying to defend the indefensible. What you said before the Senate was utter idiocy. I heard you say it. You said it to me.
I played the clip.
What you didn't play was him saying that they needed to arrest General Traore.
Oh, yeah, I didn't get that part.
Yeah. He's using his gold reserves. You didn't say squat about terrorism in that segment. You said he's using his gold reserves to provide for his own security. Well, if you're a military man, isn't that and you're the president of the country, and your country is being attacked by terrorists, isn't that what you're supposed to do? What wasn't said, but the underlying theme in that is you're using your gold reserves to protect yourself against the people we're paying to overthrow you.
Yes.
So that our interests can come back in the country and continue to rape and pillage and extract at pennies on the dollar. That's what he didn't say, but that's what he's talking about. Michael Langley, I was born at night, not last night. So we have hundreds of years of colonialism, of neo-colonialism, whether it be France, whether it be England, whether it be who was that took over Congo? Belgium. Dude.
Germany got in at the last minute. Yeah.
Dude. Been there, done that. So now what the hell was he talking about? Well, as a military man, look, as soon as you use the word sovereignty, I don't even think he really, as an American general, I don't even think he really understands what sovereignty means.
Neither do I. He's an
like
African.
Little Marco, he doesn't. Little Marco can't spell whatever it was that he couldn't spell.
Diplomacy.
Dude, Langley does not understand sovereignty. The international understanding of control of a defined geographic space, sovereignty, international recognition of control of a defined geographic space, that you are able to use militarism in order to defend. Sovereignty. That's what sovereignty is.
We don't believe in that.
No, never have.
There's no evidence we believe
not
in
since
that.
World War II. So Michael Langley, who are you talking to? Because what you said was utter idiocy.
I can only think that he's hoping the African audience didn't see all of his testimony. Because otherwise,
it has nothing to do with the testimony. He's hoping the African audience doesn't understand history.
Mm.
That's what he's talking about. Doesn't understand history. And for Senator Wicker to say, well, I can't quite understand why African countries can't seem to. You're either ignorant, stupid, or ignorant and stupid. Look, Traore is building nuclear power plants.
Yep.
Traore is Burkina Faso is now launching satellites. They have they are now able not only to grow cotton, but they are able to refine cotton from its raw state into a textile. They are processing and mining and processing their own gold. They are not only growing their own rice, but they are now able to process their rice so that it looks better than in the raw form that they, because Burkina people from Burkina Faso, Burkina were, they preferred imported rice because it looks better than the domestic grown rice. So they're now they're working towards one thing that the West can't stand: food independence. They are working towards growing their own and eating the same thing they're doing in Nicaragua. The United States cannot stand the fact that Nicaragua has become food sovereign. There's that word again. Michael Langley, come on, bruh. No. Do better than that. Do better than that.
I don't think he can. I mean, and to make the point clear, Syria is overthrown, meaning in the pages of the New York Times, even, they point out Obama had been paying billions of dollars a year to overthrow the Syrian government. Okay, who was he using to do this? Obviously, he was using terrorists to do it, and renaming it in the way that Bush renamed torture. Enhanced interrogation. But these are free Syrian rebels. They're rebels now. They're not terrorists, they're rebels. And one of the people for ISIS who was in Idlib, that when Trump was in office, protected al-Jilani, well, he shaves the beard, puts on a suit, gets coached by the UK.
And sharpens his sword to chop heads.
Yep, he used to chop heads. Donald Trump goes out, shakes the man's hand, says he has a tough history. Yeah, chopping off heads. The very hand that you shook was the hand that he used the knife to chop off heads. If that is not, like, the notion that this guy was leader of ISIS or one of the leaders of ISIS, and you're shaking his hand, and now all of the Western countries are removing the sanctions. Okay, well, the jig is up, right? And as you point out, Africa is not shocked. Like, there's a reason that they kicked out the US. There's a reason that they kicked out the French. They full well understood where the terrorism was coming from. And so it's not like, it's like, okay, so you guys came here, built a military base, you weren't doing anything else for us, and we strongly believe that you were paying these terrorists in order to create a justification for you to remain here. Okay, well, we're getting rid of you, and we're going to deal with that terrorism issue in a different way. And he is crying hard. I believe he's in Kenya, crying hard about, well, I just pointed to the security issue, that you need a different solution to the security issue. Effectively saying, hey, you need to bring us back.
Right.
Nobody buys that. Nobody buys the
No,
premise.
no. And man, you got 4 stars on your lapel. You got 4 stars. Look, there's a reason that ECOWAS, there's a reason that the Alliance of Sahel States left ECOWAS.
Yes.
There's a reason when the Nigerian government threw out France, ECOWAS said, well, you better relent or we're coming in. And they all went, man, get out of here. And what did ECOWAS do?
Back down.
Nothing.
Yeah.
The United States, look, folks, the empire is dying. And this is not some un-American statement. It is a historical reality that all empires die. Name me one that has not. You can't.
Yeah.
There was a time in the world when the adage was the sun never sets on the British Empire. Now, Britain is where you go for vacation and nasty food. So, I mean, that bangers and mash thing, man, that's, ugh.
Yeah.
That's nasty.
I mean, had Brits tell me that the best food they have is.
Don't get me wrong. They can cook you get some of the best Indian food
right
in
there.
London.
Yes.
So they can cook, but their cuisine is horrible.
Yeah.
Anyway, what happened to the Roman Empire? What happened to the Greek Empire? What happened to the Ottoman Empire? They tend to collapse for the same reason. Overreach.
Yeah.
And now with the rise of BRICS, see, this is one of the things that just really, of the number of things that disgusted me about what's his name from South Africa, the president of Ramaphosa. Cyril Ramaphosa. When Ramaphosa begged Donald Trump to allow him to come to the White House, and then Trump acquiesced, Ramaphosa was saying, we're here to talk about investment. We're here to talk about economic development. And all Donald Trump wanted to talk about was alleged, mysterious, felonious
white genocide,
apartheid against. That's insanity. But anyway, Ramaphosa never turned to Trump and said, and he could have done this as diplomatically. He could have said, Mr. President, there's a reason that South Africa joined BRICS. And that's all he had to say. The acronym BRICS was never mentioned. Mr. President, I'm here to talk about economic development and investment. And you want to talk about some fictitious theory of genocide in South Africa. There's a reason we joined BRICS. Then he just could have sat back. But boom.
Yeah.
Next point.
You couldn't do it.
Couldn't do it. No, wouldn't do it. Wouldn't do it. Wouldn't do it because they sent a boy to do a man's job.
Yeah. He's a billionaire.
Yeah. I believe that a big part of his mission was personal.
Ramaphosa?
Yes. I believe when he was talking about, because he's the guy, I'm trying to think of the Godfather context. I can't at the moment. He's the middleman. He's the guy when Jamar, when you finally decide that you're going to buy your diamond mine in South Africa, you got to go through Ramaphosa to get your mine. And then after you've bought your diamond mine and you decide that you want to make the whole bracelet, so you're going to buy the gold or the platinum as well, you got to go through him. That's how he made his money. He made his money being the South African middleman. As after Mandela was freed, Ramaphosa became the business rep, the liaison And so he always gets a cut. So I believe he was there, feathering his own nest. That may not have been his only mission, but that was part of the mission. And so, because remember, Trump did not invite him to the White House. He begged the White House for an audience. And I use that term intentionally. He wanted an audience with Trump.
Yeah. What is it? Taco, what did they call him? Taco something. Really freaked out. Yeah. I mean, from my understanding, and look, I don't doubt that in the least.
Mm-hmm.
The ANC, for the first time in 30-something years,
mm-hmm.
it is becoming clear to the public that they've lost the mission.
Mm-hmm.
You are run by a billionaire in a party that is supposed to be somewhat revolutionary. And you've added in, let's say, the apartheid party into your own, Democratic Alliance, as they call themselves, into the government. And so part of the belief was you have a lot of white folks with a lot of money saying, dude, Trump is hurting our business. You need to go kiss some ass. You need to go kiss his ass.
Mm-hmm.
And as I was telling Kofi, I was like, you realize Trump is going to bring up the white genocide thing, right? Like, because there was nothing in me to believe that Ramaphosa was going to get the level of respect that he deserved as a head of state. Right. If Zelensky didn't get it, if Canadians didn't get it, Carney, meaning Trump was like, yeah, Canada should be the 51st state. He's saying that while dude is there and is trashing elements of his own government while the guy's there. Meaning, if he doesn't even give white people this level of respect, I think Trump is racist. I don't think Ramaphosa's going to get it, especially when he has Elon Musk saying, oh, they're killing white folks. They're committing genocide against white folks.
And Ernie Ls.
Yep.
The golfer, Ernie Els, and Retief Goosen. What the hell were they doing there?
Yep.
What was Ernie Els and what were Retief Goosen? If as South Africans, see, I think they wanted golf courses. They want to build golf courses in South Africa. I mean that seriously.
Yeah.
And so you bring them to the lunch, or you invite them to the state dinner. What in the world were they doing in that room at that time? Because and don't be surprised if Donald Trump is a minor partner in the golf courses that Retief Goosen and Ernie Els want to build in South Africa.
Wouldn't be shocked. Wouldn't be shocked at seeing the crypto thing. I wouldn't be shocked in the least.
Exactly.
Wouldn't be shocked in the least. All right. One last thing, and this can be all of 2 or 3 minutes. Federal court strikes down Donald Trump's tariff policy. Mm-hmm. And what's funny about this is funny on so many levels. He has to pay that money back. Mm-hmm. Meaning any other money that he collected on tariffs has to now be paid back. And it's possible that an injunction is going to be filed against the tariffs going forward, which means China has 10% tariffs on the U.S. that the U.S. is not able to respond to because the courts struck those down, in addition to the host of other tariffs. Just amazing.
The beauty of this, the first sentence in that subheading, the U.S. Court of International Trade. Mm-hmm. Not the World Court, not the International Court, not the Kangaroo Court, the U.S. Court.
Yep.
He's lost in his own country again.
By the way, one of those was one of his judges, by the way.
Yeah.
And it was unanimous.
Yes. Because it's wrong.
Yeah.
It's just wrong. And one thing about judges, I'll make this generalization. I know it isn't true across the board, but even the most biased judge still wants some legal rationale for the decisions that they make. Even if they have to kind of construct some kind of fictitious explanation, they still want to be able to turn to the law and say, I held this, or I made this decision, I'm issuing this holding for this reason. He's bringing them utter idiocy. And they're saying, nah, man, the math just don't work.
Yeah. It's like you can't even have nothing to hold on to for this.
No.
So their thinking is it's going to go to Supreme Court. And of course, you have a completely conservative Supreme Court. So who the hell knows what happens?
I don't see, based upon the way the Supreme Court has been going recently, and based upon the fact that this is a unanimous decision by the International Court, first of all, I'm not going to say they're not going to take the case, but I'd be surprised if they did take the case, because there's really no case to take.
Yeah.
All they're doing, they'd be better served by saying, we don't need to hear this. It's already been decided. There's nothing for us to debate here. They would be better served doing that than taking it, deliberating on it, and coming out with a 5-4 decision or a 6-3 supporting the International Trade Court. The U.S. International Trade Court unanimously held the following. Why are you coming to us?
Yeah.
Unless they're trying to find some procedural ground upon which to challenge the decision. What are you going to say? That the Court of International Trade has no jurisdiction on tariffs? I mean,
they do. Yeah.
That's why they're there.
Fascinating. Just fascinating. But Dr. Leon, thank you for this, man. I always appreciate these conversations. I always enjoy these conversations. Dr. Wilmer Leon, we were supposed to talk about the big, beautiful bill. I saw that clip, and I definitely want to get your take on it, just in general.
Just
I thought it was outrageous.
If I could, on that point, just for a second, I think it's important to understand that you look at where the pushback is coming from. A lot of the pushback is coming from Nebraska. Mike Flood, the congressman in Nebraska, went to a town hall and got hammered,
as he should have.
And the Ashley Hinson from Iowa went to a town hall and got hammered. This is the Midwest. This is MAGA ground. This reminds me of Thomas Frank's "What's the Matter with Kansas?" I think in fact I'm going to reach out to Thomas and see if I can get him back on my show, because folks need to go back and reread "What's the Matter with Kansas," because and where are the Democrats here? This is prime opportunity for the Democrats to be front and center as a party, explaining to the American people the ugly details in this bill. Cutting 700, what is it? 700.
It's like $100 billion from Medicaid.
From Medicaid.
Yeah.
Asking the states to pay more when the states are already at the brink of bankruptcy, because the government from the Reagan administration forward has cut federal programs giving money back to the states. The states have no more money, and the states can't raise taxes anymore, to property taxes and all the other kinds of taxes that states have had to raise to pay for the things the states provide. There's no more money here. And you want to do this so Donald Trump and his crew can get bigger tax cuts. Look, you can explain it. I can explain it. Why can't the Democrats explain it?
Not to mention $20 trillion in the debt. There's that too. Professor, thank you for this, my man. Dr. Wilmer Leon, he is radio host, political scientist, nationally syndicated columnist, host of Connecting the Dots, and also Inside the Issues on Sirius XM. Thank you, my man. You be safe, okay? Have a good one.
Take care.
Bye-bye. Oh, fantastic. Yes, fantastic.